You're listening to Scaling Up Services, where we speak with entrepreneurs, authors, business experts, and thought leaders to give you the knowledge and insights you need to scale your service-based business faster and easier. And now, here is your host, business coach Bruce Eckfeldt.
Are you a CEO looking to scale your company faster and easier? Check out Thrive Roundtable. Thrive combines a moderated peer group mastermind, expert one-on-one coaching, access to proven growth tools, and a 24/7 support community. Created by Inc. award-winning CEO and certified scaling up business coach Bruce Eckfeldt, Thrive will help you grow your business more quickly and with less drama. For details on the program, visit eckfeldt.com/thrive. That's ECKFELDT.com/thrive.
Welcome, everyone. This is Scaling Up Services. I'm Bruce Eckfeldt. I'm your host. And our guest today is Jarod Spiewak, and he is founder and lead strategist at Spiewak Marketing. We're going to talk to him a little bit about the work that he does, helping companies really figure out marketing strategy, what the right ROI is, really how to make marketing effective. I work with so many companies on strategy, and they go to do their marketing, and they just don't really have a good system for making sure that their marketing is being effective, capturing data, getting good feedback, looking at where to really kind of optimize and adjust. So I'm always interested in talking with people that really deal with the marketing side of things. The other thing I would say is, given this world, so many things are changing right now in terms of how people are generating business, how people are actually selling and generating audience, generating demand for their products and services, that this is a key one. A lot of people are moving to online for all sorts of reasons and all sorts of ways. So I think this is going to be more and more of an issue. So I'm excited to learn a little bit more, have a little more insight, hopefully find some takeaways for guests to really think about marketing from a strategic point of view. So with that, Jarod, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So let's do background first. I always love to kind of hear stories of how people got into the businesses they're running and the work that they're doing. How did you get into marketing? What was the backstory? Give us a little bit of it.
Sure. Let me kind of go through a long story and try to make it as short as possible.
Go ahead.
So this goes back to when I was 14. I was in high school and I was going to be graduating early. I finished high school when I was 15 and I needed to figure out a way to pay for college because anything my loans didn't cover, I had to figure out how to pay for it myself. Mm-hmm. So I made the brass decision to Google how to make money online, which is full of legitimate opportunities that went absolutely nowhere. But what it did bring me to was writing online. And this got me into finding out that SEO or search engine optimization was a thing. And that's mainly what my background has been in marketing. I've done various other things, which I'll mention here in a second. Yeah. But basically, this was kind of my intro to the world of online marketing. I knew I wanted to go to school for business. I knew I wanted to be in business, but I didn't know where to really start. Communications, business management, marketing. And this kind of got me into marketing. Started writing online, making very little money, but it did bring me into the world of, what do some of these terms mean? What does this mean? What is this? What's kind of important? And then I basically forgot about it for a while. I was in college. I was lucky enough to get a corporate marketing job when I was 17 at the time. They had to clear it with higher ups of the company to see if they could even legally hire me before I was 18. That was a bit fun.
Technically
and then,
a minor at that point, right? I mean,
So
yeah, exactly.
They managed to clear it, and I worked there for a while. I graduated college a month after I turned 18, and I hated the company that I worked for at the time. I was really, really unhappy. I thought, honestly, that I'd be climbing the corporate ladder, that would be what I was going to do. Yeah. But it just turned into a bunch of various issues with a bunch of false promises made and just various other things that people run into fairly frequently in those sorts of positions. So I started looking back into what I used to know about that SEO thing. What was that again? And so I went online, found out more about it. I signed up for online freelancing websites, and I started offering my services for $5 an hour so that I could learn basically how to do this sort of stuff. And eventually, only after a couple months, that led me to actually getting a full-time job offer from a marketing agency who was willing to pay me double what I was making in my corporate job, who was able to basically give me a lot of freedom and allow me to do something I was actually interested in, as well as allow me to work from home. So next day, I said, okay, great, this is my 2-week notice and I'm going to be gone from here.
Exactly.
So I did that for about 2 years. While I was doing that, I was learning various other forms of marketing on my own. I was still freelancing on the side. And over the course of about 2 years, I went from full-time to part-time to eventually to no time. And I had a good amount of clients. I had a good amount of money coming in. And I was looking around and I was like, okay, well, what's next for me now that I'm officially completely on my own? And the next logical step was, okay, let's try give my own marketing agency a go. And that was founded 2 years ago is when we officially incorporated that. And what we do is we help service-based businesses essentially make more money through the use of SEO and Google Ads PPC. And aside from that, as being someone who is very business focused, I also have a CMO, a remote CMO consulting business where companies will hire myself and my business partner to basically go in, and it's less of an implementation role and more so working with their marketing teams to basically unscrew up their marketing and kind of figure out how to both save them money and make them more money. And just as kind of a born and bred entrepreneur, if you will, I also have an investment company. I love just kind of like building things just because I can.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of need to keep that muscle exercised in lots of different ways. So I get that.
Exactly.
So why don't we start with just kind of defining or clarifying in general, or at least for you, what you mean by marketing? Because I think a lot of people get confused about what marketing is, what does it entail, what does it not entail, what the goal of marketing is. How do you define this, or how do you suggest people think about when we talk about marketing, what are we referring to?
Marketing, to me, if I were to broadly describe it, it's how you invest your time and money in order to get money back into the business. And that's a very broad explanation. The reason being is that anything can really be considered marketing, just like anything can really be considered branding. You know, how your employees handle themselves when they're out at a bar represents your company still to a certain degree. Yes, we're getting a little bit more abstract there, but that does matter. I mean, if one of your employees is wearing a branded t-shirt getting in a bar fight, it's probably not a good image. So same thing with marketing. If you're let's say out in a bar and one of your employees just happens to chat up someone who could be a good fit for your company to work with, and they mention, oh yeah, I work with here, they're a great company. That is marketing. That time is being spent and can help you make money. Word of mouth, being able to put your business in front of people in any way which inform, and anything and everything you do can be considered marketing. That tweet that you just posted about how you really hate that Tom Brady moved to the Bucs. Well, guess what? Other people who are in your market that are really big fans of, maybe they really hate the Patriots or maybe they really love the Patriots, to go, hey, we're going to connect about that. I like that person's tweet. And so it's so broad, more so than most people realize. But at the end of the day, it's anything and everything that you do that either costs you time or money that then results in you making more money either on the front end or on the back end over time. Yeah,
that's good. And I like that kind of return mindedness on it. Like it's something you put money into, expecting money coming out of in one way, shape, or form. Because I think a lot of people kind of don't do that. I mean, they just kind of think, well, I've got to spend something on marketing, but I don't really know how to measure it or its effectiveness or what the return is or how to optimize it. So I like that kind of frame that you put on it.
Yeah, especially be an issue as businesses scale when they just have set marketing budgets that they're just told, hey, you need to spend $50,000 a month.
Which may be far too much, or it may be far too little, depending on how effective your marketing is and what you're using it for.
Exactly.
Yeah. So in terms of marketing strategies, and you mentioned the work that you do now is, focused on search engine and pay-per-click and those kind of online strategies. What are some other things that would sort of generally fall into the category of marketing? I mean, you mentioned everything from the tweets that you're doing to the people you meet at coffee shops. I mean, all of that could be considered marketing. But what are some of the general strategies that, particularly for service-based companies, that you've seen companies use, various levels of effectiveness, but the things that are considered when you start to look at what are my options for marketing?
Yeah, so what most people will be spending their money on nowadays, and most businesses are, a large portion of advertising and marketing spend has been moved online. A lot less is being spent on broadcast, TV, radio, etc., billboards. And with online, a lot of the times, especially right now, you're talking more so things like SEO, which is essentially gaining more visibility on search engines like Google, Bing, Yahoo, mostly just Google. They have a 93% market share. Google Ads pay-per-click as well, or there are other advertising platforms. And so this is in the form of having your ads show up on search engines, having your ads show up on YouTube, which are video ads, which is also run through Google owns YouTube for anyone that doesn't know. So your YouTube video ads are run through Google Ads. And you can also run things like shopping ads, which is through for e-commerce products. You can run display ads, which is where essentially your content appears on other people's websites or apps. And they also now have the discovery ads, which for anyone that uses Google Discover, if you have like a Pixel phone, you just keep scrolling to the left on your home screen, you'll get that feed of articles, of just random articles. It's basically a competitor of Facebook in that regard. So that's kind of Google's network. Facebook and Instagram. Facebook owns Instagram for anyone that doesn't know. So if you're running ads on Instagram, you're running ads on Facebook in terms of their platform. You can separate it, but Facebook ads, very, very common nowadays. You can run that in a ton of different ways, from text to images to videos, etc. Those are kind of the main channels that people are running, but also what you're doing with your website. The content that you put on your website is marketing in terms of quality content. A big mistake people make is they cheap out on content writers and they just try to hire the cheapest writers. And then who wants to hire a company or work with a company that can barely put together a logical English paragraph?
Yeah.
So the content you have on your website, the design, the UX, the UI of your website, how it looks, how it makes people navigate, is it easy to find what someone's looking for? All of these things are very common for people to invest in, and not all of them are invested in with the mindset of marketing, mainly around the website, when people or businesses rather, don't really pay too much attention to often what their website says, how it displays them as a company, how it looks, if it has everything that the user is looking for, especially around the offer. Let's say you are a family lawyer. Every family lawyer that you'll look at has the same exact offer. You go to their website, they're offering the same exact thing: a free consultation, call now, open a case today, whatever it may be. So that is another thing where your conversion rate, or the percentage of people who visit your website that then become a lead or inquiry, can improve through CRO, or conversionary optimization. And that's, again, a very broad term, which one of the things you can do is change what you're actually offering on your website. Again, that is both partly marketing, partly on the business as well, because you have to have something different to offer, but that is a very overlooked and commonly overlooked thing, where there's a lot of money to be made for businesses that actually do look at things beyond just how do we get traffic.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting. It's in terms of how much do you suggest, business owners, executives, running service companies really should try to figure out all the details on this stuff. And I guess how much do you need to know to effectively kind of develop a strategy for your marketing?
Very little nowadays. The days of really needing a business plan, really needing a formal document laid out for a marketing strategy, very few businesses actually do that. What you really need is just somebody who understands what they're doing and who is setting up tracking so that you can actually know what kind of ROI you're getting from your activities. Or if you're doing something that's a little bit more abstract, if you're doing more branding work, the KPIs are going to be different than actual money in versus money out. But it's less so about creating a strategy necessarily, as much as it's just making sure you're spending your money effectively. Honestly, I work with a lot of companies who do have very complicated marketing strategies, and that's great. But all those strategies focus on, what channels are we going to do, how much money we're going to spend on these channels, and not necessarily, okay, how effectively are these channels working, what channels work together, everything like that. Trying to come up with an easy way to frame it without kind of going down a rabbit hole. But for most companies that do not have in-house marketing teams, it is mainly hiring a professional that you can trust, and then making sure that their work is being tracked, and hiring them at something that they can do. A big mistake people make is hiring a general marketing company that offers 8 poorly developed services rather than one really good service. So I'm not really worried about the overall high-level marketing strategy for most businesses, because most businesses don't really need that. You're probably not Walt Disney, where every single so
$1 billion company that has multi-channel, omnichannel strategies and all this.
So many people will disagree with me. I totally get that, but honestly, I'm not too worried about it. With my businesses, myself, I don't sit down and write out full-blown marketing strategies. I do create strategies for the individual channels that I'm working on, and as they start to work together, there'll be something there. But I'm not worried about taking a week, a month to plan out every single dollar that I'm spending and where that's going to go, what channel. I'm very bullish on, if I'm spending $1 and I'm making $2, well, I'm giving that every penny that I have. That is my strategy.
Once you see the return. What changes the strategy for you? As you work with a business, what are the questions that you ask? What are the things you need to know about the nature of the business, the nature of the clients, the market that they're in, that would help you kind of craft the nuances of the different strategies that you would suggest to them?
So when talking very high level, the first thing is talking about the different channels that can or cannot work for them. Within the agency that I have, we exclusively, as of right now, work on Google Ads, PPC, and SEO. Anything else we'll refer out to other people that we know is great stuff, and we're happy to consult with our clients about those other channels. But we're looking looking at, okay, great. Are these two channels or one of these channels going to be effective for you? And how effective is it going to be? And that's looking at two things. One, can they afford to play that game? It's going to cost money. And two, do they have the proper marketing acumen to go down that channel? And what I mean is this. Something like SEO is it's very expensive. It's a high risk, high return strategy. It's something that takes a long time. It is something that is not guaranteed. It is something that, Google can change their algorithms tomorrow, and everything that you've done, maybe you were really bullish on a specific strategy for the past 12 months, and now that strategy is very ineffective and your website takes a big hit. This happens not very frequently where everything's always going up and down, but it's not uncommon that strategies come and go, things come and go. You need to have a certain acumen to be willing to take a certain amount of money, a non-insignificant amount of money, put that into a marketing strategy, knowing that you're probably not going to see a single dollar from that, depending on how various factors, for maybe several months, or for more competitive areas, it might be 6 to 8 months. And once you do see money in, then it's a matter of, okay, how long until we actually make back the money we've invested total? So that's more long-term.
Yeah, the full ROI could take a while.
Exactly. Compared to something with like Google Ads, where for some businesses, it can be profitable from day one. Like sometimes we'll set up an ad and, okay, great, it's been on for 2 hours and we've already gotten our first lead. So it's a very different kind of game. And so that's one thing that's very important to me, is making sure that they understand that and that they're going to have the proper acumen, because I'm not in the game of, okay, great, let me take your money for 3-4 months and then have you cancel because you didn't see a return then. Does that sometimes happen? Yes, of course, because I can't control everybody's businesses and their decision making, but I try my best to make sure, okay, how qualified are you for this channel? Not just as a client of ours that, can you afford to pay us, but are you going to be someone who is going to be able to be around and stick in to actually see that return? Yeah. So that's one thing that's really big for me, especially when it comes to SEO. And next is just, do they understand how the channel works? When it comes to something like Google Ads, a lot of people go, okay, great, because SEO takes so long, advertising, you can set it up and it can work instantly. I guess that means that it works for everyone instantly. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it does take a while to be able to play around with things, run tests, and get them up and going. So making sure that they understand that as well. I put a lot of time and effort into educating clients and prospective clients as much as possible through doing things like podcasts like this, talking about these conversations and just the other materials that we've created, because that's the number one thing. Like budget, obviously, do they meet X, Y, and Z expectations in terms of the type of company, the size of company? Yeah, that's stuff that everyone should be doing by default. But it's so important to me to make sure that the actual marketing acumen is there, especially if they do not have an in-house marketing team, where they're not, they don't have someone full-time thinking about marketing, where they're just like, oh yeah, here's this other thing that we should do. This marketing channel seems pretty sexy, so let me get someone on the phone and I'll just pay them whatever. That can really end in a dangerous situation for that business. Yeah, that makes sense. And what else do you need to put in place to really make this effective? Because I think for a product company, if you're a retailer, an online retailer, it's a pretty clear, look, if I have SEO and I get clicks, or I've got pay-per-click and the people are clicking on things, going to a page, they're going to buy it or not going to buy it. I can literally count the money that's being generated through this marketing. For service companies, it's more complicated, right? Like I'm going to generate some kind of, marketing qualified lead that I then have to actually engage with in some way. If it's a complicated sale, I may have proposals, I may have diagnostic, conversations, things like that, or I have to set things up. How do you track, or how do you really look at kind of end-to-end value when it comes to marketing and make sure that we're actually generating real revenue and real profit on this activity when there's more to it than just the click? Right. So it's imperatively important that you are tracking from click to profit. And I'll go over kind of each step that you need to go through. But at the very beginning, when it comes to lead generation, the company that you're working with, the agency that you're working with, if you're working with an agency, not doing it in-house, you're working with a freelancer, everything should be tracked up to the point of you getting a lead. Everything after the point of you getting a lead is something that you 100% need to be doing in-house, because you're not going to give some random company access to your database of customers, most likely. But honestly, you should have everything in-house where all the tracking is on you, and you give access to the people that you're working with, whether that's an in-house team, an outsourced team, whatever it may be, so that you have your historical data. So I'll preface that with this, is that if you're, let's say, doing call tracking tracking, we are tracking how many phone calls you're getting. Ideally, that is your account that you're giving access to someone, not someone that's giving you access to a sub-account, because what happens when you stop working with the other, you lose all that historical data, which is very, very important for you moving forward and with other people you work with. So with that said, tracking clicks to profits. The first thing is clicks are pretty much tracked by anything you do online. If you're running ads on Facebook, right within their native platform, you can see how many clicks you got. If you're using Google Analytics, you can see that. If you're using Google Ads, you can see how many clicks you got. So the first thing that's pretty much imperatively tracked regardless of what you're using is how many clicks you're getting. Well, next what happens is people land on your website. And when they're on your website, what you need to track is how many people went from clicks to then converting into a lead or an inquiry. And you do that through conversion tracking in various ways. So if it's a form fill, you can do that through something like Google Tag Manager, Google Ads, conversion tracking code, Facebook's tracking code. You can do that through Google Analytics as well. If you're doing it through Tag Manager, you would fire it into Analytics anyways if you know how to use that tool. And that's pretty straightforward to track through either an event button or a thank you page. And if you're like, hey, I have no idea what that means, I don't want to take up too much time on it, so it's super easy to Google. There's 1,000,001 articles on it on how to track form conversions. The next thing you're most likely tracking are phone calls. Now, this is the thing that so many businesses, regardless of their size in the service industry, do not do, is they don't track their phone calls. And you can use something like CallRail, which is what we use, or you can use something like Call Tracking Metrics, CallFire. There's a bunch of them. And what you can do is then you can put specific phone numbers, especially if you're using what's called DNI or dynamic number insertion. You can put phone numbers on your website that anytime somebody calls you, you then have an analytical dashboard that you can see how many calls did you get, where did that call come from, how long did it last, what percentage of our calls were actually answered versus went to voicemail versus the call was ended earlier. And now what you have, this is what you all be tracking, regardless of how sophisticated you are within your marketing. This 100% should be tracked, where you can then tell on the back end how many phone calls did this marketing channel generate for us. Depending on the channel, you might be able to track it back to the campaign. So something that Google Ads does allow you to do is you can, if you're using something like CallRail, I can't speak to the other call tracking platforms, but at a pretty high success rate, because not all data is perfect, they will be able to track back the actual phone call to the individual keyword that they called you from. So not the campaign, not the ad group, the individual keyword. And that gives you so much more data, because most people, for most service-based businesses, you're getting phone calls in a much higher volume than you're getting form fills. So that's super important.
Yeah, so because when they hit the website, they can either fill out that form, or they look at the phone number that's listed on the page and they just pick up the phone rather than the form. So unless you have that connective tissue to the actual keyword or what they clicked on or what they searched for that generated the view of the clickable thing that they then clicked on to then call the number, you won't have that traceback, but this really gives you that traceback capability to say, hey, look, this term is profitable for us, right? Like if putting ad money against this generates real dollars in terms of what client it is. We know how profitable they are. We should do more of that.
Right. And you hit the nail right on the head there where you said that term is profitable, because this is such a big mistake people make, is they base things off of feelings. I feel as though we're getting more phone calls. I feel as though that is profitable. Yeah. That helps nobody do anything. And if you're not tracking this, what happens is you go into, let's say, your Google Ads account and you go, okay, great. We've had 2 campaigns. One spent $10,000 this month. The other one spent $7,000 this month. They've gotten clicks. They've gotten a click-through rate. Well, how many actual conversions do we have? How do you know that one campaign that spent $10,000 hasn't generated 0 leads, or maybe only generated 5? Maybe the one that spent $7,000, you're getting $20 leads, and the other one you're getting $55 leads, right? So there's so much more you can do and so many more optimizations you can make. And that's the very basics as to what people should be tracking, is where you can be tying back your leads to the individual channels so that you can actually look at how profitable these channels are in terms of leads. However, if you want to tie it from there to be able to tie in the leads to the profit, that's where we're getting in more to your CRM, your customer database, your relationship management software, your law firm, your case management software, et cetera, et cetera. So from here, what you should be doing is any way you get a lead, those need to be connected. They'll either have a native connection, or you'll have to bring in a developer to create you a custom API connection. Trust me, it's not as expensive as you think. Sometimes you can get a lot of this done for like $50 in an hour of their time. So from here, what you should be able to do is you should be able to tie in, okay, here's a new lead that we got. It's Lisa. She called us, and okay, here's her phone number. I can log into CallRail, or maybe that connection already puts it in there where you can see, okay, she called us because of our Facebook ad campaign. She called us because of our Google Ads campaign. She called us because of she came in as a referral traffic from this other website. And so you can track within there. Now you're tying in your customers to the actual leads that you're getting back into the channel. So now you can see actually how many customers you're getting. And if you want to get really nuanced with it, you can then look at your conversion rate from leads to customers by individual channels. Yeah. Maybe you're getting a ton of leads from Facebook, and that's great, super cheap leads. They're super happy. Everyone's really happy. But in reality, maybe you're getting a very low percentage of actual customers from that. And then you can take that information and then you can go, okay, great. Now that we have this information, let's sit down and talk about, what can we do to possibly solve this issue? Or maybe this just isn't, is this channel still profitable? Is it just maybe a really bad channel for our type of company, whatever it may be? So what that lets you do is you can tie back individual customers or clients back to the individual channel and the individual click. Now, what you should be doing is going further is you should be putting in within that CRM how much money that customer or that client has made you over their lifetime.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have that, and then you just, if you know that roughly your profit margin is about 30%, if you want to just do it very broadly, you can go, okay, great. This is a $10,000 project. It was, we average about a 30% profit margin. So we probably profited about $3,000 off of this. Okay, how much did we make this month, this quarter, this year from this channel? Okay, we profited about $100,000 estimated. We spent about $35,000. We made just under a 3x return. And then that's where you get amazing amount of results, because then you can optimize each individual step of the process where you can go, okay, great. Why are we converting 30% of our leads into customers? What if we sent our front desk person to this high-end training camp? Yes, it's going to cost us $5,000 in a week of their time where they're going to be, out in LA really enjoying themselves. But if they come back and they help us develop better processes for our sales team, well, guess what happens? Your marketing spend is now more effective. Your SEO campaign just got a higher ROI from nothing you did regarding the actual SEO campaign, because you're actually now selling people more effectively. And the ROI involves a lot more than just the marketing campaign. The marketing campaign has very little to do with the actual ROI of the marketing campaign. All SEO does is it gets you a click. Your website is going to get them into an inquiry. Your sales team is going to get them into a customer, and your fulfillment team is going to hopefully make you profitable.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like I do when I'm working with strategy on folks, overall business strategy, one of the exercises I put them through is really looking at their core customer, and I have them pull up their customer list, and I have them score it on profitability, how pleasurable it is to serve, and how much do those customers refer other customers, right? And so a good company that's done this well, if we can actually look, because most service companies that I find, different customers are profitable at different levels, whether it's the pricing that you're giving them, whether it's, the extras that you have to throw in, discounts, some customers take a lot of extra time, so that cuts into the profitability. So if you actually have that data, and then you could actually use that to trace back and say, hey, where do we find our best, most profitable customers from? And how can we optimize that channel to filter out the customers that are not as profitable and get more of the customers that are profitable? That is great, because if you can actually trace that all the way back to the ad and how we've written the ad, or, the content that we're generating, and actually filter out, attract the right folks and repel the wrong folks, that's superpower.
Exactly. And that's another thing that you just mentioned that I don't think everybody realizes, is that different channels have different profitability, not because of how effective those channels are, but because they attract different types of people, and they're going to respond differently. You might find, this is something that, as a real life example, we had a channel that we were generating leads for about $2 to $3, which is incredibly cheap in our industry, because that was just a channel that really worked really well for me. And another channel, so for example, we basically SEO'd our own website. We ranked number 1 in our local area here in New Hampshire for about 2.5 years. And we got very low quality leads from it, something that never really turned into any sort of project, because the type of people who were just Googling SEO near me or SEO company near me were a lot worse of a fit than other channels that we had that were bringing in the right type of person. So basically we stopped caring about that in that regard. And now our SEO strategy has changed to more top of the funnel content based, where most service businesses are focused on middle of the funnel. What I mean by that is if you're an accident attorney, you're trying to get people in an accident, or we're searching for an accident attorney, not people who are necessarily Googling, or not at first people who are Googling, how much does it cost to hire a lawyer, or like, do I need to hire a lawyer after an accident, or, how do you get an accident report from the police once you've been in an accident, whatever it may be. Where for us, that was a different strategy, because if we focus on content, which is more expensive to produce and it does take a lot more time, we get much better leads. So again, that's something that is very, very important, is how good are the actual people that we're getting from this actual channel.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's like many things in life. There's trade-offs. You can decide, do you want to play a long game, invest and get really good long-term results? Do you need more immediate results? Well, it may not be as efficient, or your costs may be higher, but it's more immediate in terms of returns. Yeah, always a challenge. I think the whole idea of looking at it strategically and looking at it from a data point of view, regardless of the industry and regardless of the situation, is kind of the frame that I think most successful companies, or most companies that have tackled marketing successfully, have done. So if people want to find out more about you, about the work that you do, about, we've covered lots of different topics. I'm sure you've got lots of content available for people to get more details. Where is the best place to go to get that information?
Yeah, sure. So there's two places you can go. The first is my personal website, which is just jarodspiewak.com, JARODSPIEWAK.com. If you go under the Learn tab right on the homepage, you can find articles that I've written, as well as a link that brings you to other shows and guest posts I've written, other podcasts I've done, so on and so forth, if you want to know more about me there. My agency website is TEAM BlueDog.com. There's some content on there, bring you to a YouTube channel. Come check out content. Hope you like it. No hard offer, no hard pitch. If you want to work together, feel free to reach out. But at the very least, I hope you enjoy the content that you see.
Yeah, Jarod, this has been a real pleasure. It's been extremely helpful. I know, this is always a challenging one for service-based businesses, and I like the way you kind of broke it down. I like the kind of the frame you gave to it and some of the ideas you put on the table. So I appreciate it. It was a good conversation, and I enjoyed spending some time with you, and thanks for taking the time to speak with me today.
Yeah, of course. I hope people got some value out of this, and again, thank you for having me on.
You've been listening to Scaling Up Services with business coach Bruce Eckfeldt. To find a full list of podcast episodes, download the tools and worksheets, and access other great content, visit the website at scalingupservices.com. And don't forget to sign up for the free newsletter at scalingupservices.com/newsletter.